Long ago, in a quiet city called Verona, the nights were soft and full of stars. The streets were made of smooth stone, and when the moonlight touched them, they shone like silver rivers. At night, the air smelled like flowers and warm bread. Bells rang from faraway towers, and everything felt peaceful. But behind those beautiful walls, the people were not always kind. Two rich families, the Montagues and the Capulets, did not get along. They had been angry at each other for many, many years. In the middle of this city lived a young man named Romeo. He was gentle and quiet, often walking through Verona at night. He loved the stars, the cool air, and the sound of music from open windows. Sometimes he wished he could find someone who understood his heart. Far away in a big house, a girl named Juliet stood by her window. She looked up at the same stars. She didn't care about her family's anger or their pride. She only wished for peace and someone who could love her for who she was. One night, their paths crossed at a festival. There were lights, laughter, and music. But when Romeo saw Juliet, the world became quiet. The noise faded, and it felt like time had stopped. They looked at each other, and in that small moment, both hearts understood something the world could not explain. It was love, pure and bright, like two stars finding each other in the sky. After that night, they could not stop thinking about each other. Even though their families were enemies, their hearts did not care. Love had made them brave and gentle at the same time. They began to meet secretly under the soft cover of darkness. Each night felt like a dream, quiet, safe, and full of hope. Verona outside was full of anger, but in their small world there was only peace. They did not know how their story would end. They only knew that being together felt right, even if it was dangerous. The stars above them seemed to whisper, "Love is stronger than fear." And so, in the quiet city of Verona, two hearts began a journey that even time would remember. When the moon rose above Verona, Romeo would quietly leave his house. He walked through narrow streets, past sleeping markets and silent fountains, until he reached a small stone gate covered in vines. Behind that gate waited Juliet, standing among flowers that shone like silver in the night. The garden was their safe place. No one argued there. No one cared about last names or pride. The air was cool and smelled of jasmine. A tiny stream ran beside them, singing gently to the stones. Each night they met, they told each other stories of what they dreamed life could be. Romeo spoke of travelling beyond Verona's walls, finding a quiet village near the sea where no one knew them. Juliet imagined a small home with blue curtains and sunlight in the mornings. Sometimes they said nothing at all. They just listened to the sound of night, the leaves moving, the water flowing, the distant echo of bells. But even when everything felt peaceful, the world outside was changing. People began to whisper. Servants carried tales between houses, and soon both families grew suspicious. One evening, Romeo arrived late. His eyes looked worried. "The streets aren't safe tonight," he said softly. "There was a fight. Some of my friends were hurt." Juliet's heart trembled. She took his hand and said, "Then promise you'll be careful. Promise you'll live." He nodded, though neither of them truly believed peace would last. Still, that night, they stayed together until dawn, watching the sky turn pale blue. In the days that followed, anger filled Verona's air like smoke. The families blamed each other for every wound. Romeo wished to stop it, but words were useless. One afternoon, a terrible fight broke out in the market. Steel clashed, voices shouted, and when silence returned, someone lay still upon the ground. Romeo did not mean for anyone to die, but fate can be cruel, even to gentle hearts. Fear spread through the city, and by nightfall he was gone, forced to flee before the guards came. Juliet waited in the garden, holding her breath as minutes turned to hours. The stars appeared, but Romeo did not. When she finally understood, tears slid down her cheeks, shining in the moonlight. The next day, Verona felt heavy and grey. The once bright fountains seemed to whisper sorrow. Juliet stayed in her room, writing letters she could never send. In one letter she wrote, "Love should not hurt, yet it is the only thing keeping my heart alive." She hid the paper under her pillow and prayed that somehow Romeo would feel her words in his dreams. Far away, Romeo hid near the hills outside Verona. Each night he looked toward the city, hoping to see the light of her window. He thought of the garden, the lilies, and the promise they made beneath the stars, that love was stronger than hate. Even apart they felt close, as if their hearts could still hear each other through wind and distance. Many nights passed. Juliet's parents believed she should marry another man, a rich noble who could bring peace to their house. They did not ask what she wanted. They only saw her silence and thought it was obedience. But inside her a storm was growing. She could not marry anyone else. Her heart already belonged to Romeo, wherever he was. She went to a kind old friar, a priest who had once helped Romeo hide. She begged him for a way to escape. The friar thought for a long moment and gave her a small bottle. "Drink this," he said, "and you will fall into a deep sleep for 2 days. Everyone will think you are gone. When you wake, Romeo will come, and you can leave Verona together." Juliet thanked him, though fear trembled in her hands. That night she looked once more at the stars and whispered, "Let love be kind." Then she drank the potion. When morning came, the house filled with cries. Her parents wept, her maids prayed. They believed Juliet had died. The news spread through Verona like a cold wind. Out in the hills, Romeo heard the rumour. His heart broke before he could breathe. Without waiting, he rushed back to the city, hiding his face beneath a cloak. The streets were silent, the bells rang slowly. He found the place where she lay, in the same garden that had once held their laughter. Candles surrounded her like tiny suns. She looked asleep, peaceful and pale, as if the moon had kissed her eyes closed. Romeo knelt beside her, his tears falling on her hand. "If the world will not let us live," he whispered, "perhaps it will let us dream together." He took her hand and rested his head beside hers. Moments later, the sky began to pale. The potion's magic faded. Juliet's fingers moved. Her eyes fluttered open. She saw Romeo beside her and smiled, but the smile froze when she realized he was no longer breathing. She cried out softly, her voice echoing through the quiet garden. But she felt his warmth still, as if his spirit had only stepped a little ahead. She lay down beside him, whispering, "Wait for me, my love." Only until dawn the garden filled with stillness once more. The sun rose slowly over Verona, painting the sky with gold. People would soon find what love had done, but the story would not truly end there. As light touched their faces, a soft wind moved through the garden. The flowers that had drooped lifted again, glowing brighter than before. The fountain's water shimmered as if sprinkled with stars. In that moment, 2 spirits woke, lighter than air, shining like dawn. They stood hand in hand, looking at the city that had once divided them. But now there was no anger, no walls, no names, only peace. Romeo smiled. "Look," he said gently, "Verona sleeps, but we are free." Juliet looked up at the endless sky. "Then let us keep dreaming," she whispered, "so the world may learn what love can be." Together they rose higher, following the path of sunlight. The sky welcomed them like an open sea of gold and silver. Below, flowers bloomed brighter that day. The people who found them felt something they could not name, a quiet warmth that softened their hearts. The old feud slowly faded, for no one could speak of hate when such love had left its mark upon the city. And at night, when the moon returned, some said they could see 2 faint stars shining side by side, always close, always gentle, watching over Verona. Those who looked long enough swore the stars seemed to move, slowly turning toward one another as if they still held hands across the sky. Their story became a lullaby, not of sadness but of hope. For even though their hearts stopped beating, their love kept breathing in every whisper of wind, every ripple of water, every sigh beneath the stars. And so it is told, softly and forever, that love, when true, never dies. It simply learns to dream in another world,